Douglas Politics tonight, 7:30 p.m. Douglas Politics. Rowley say yes, that my friend. He love me like hog love mud. He wants Stuarty and me to dance bareback with him. Oh no, we might not appeal. Maybe we appeal. The lawyers are checking it. I don't do nothing with that. That have nothing to do with me. We may not appeal. Deborah Peak say appeal. Riding and running. Wow. Flora Duffy. And not no little close race. She blow them out. As a coach, that is how you want to win. That is Caribbean greatness. That is brilliance. That breaks our culture. We normally sprint and do things that we can happen fast and powerful. We like to win quick. Them painful, torturous victories. Well done to Bermuda. Caribbean island of Bermuda. For all of, I don't even want to discuss that. And let me tell you something. The Olympics is about brilliance. I am going to show you all something. When I look at my children in Trinidad and Tobago, whatever sport they do, whatever they are trying to achieve, I just see brilliance and ability that reminds me of this. This video is how I see our children. I think that our children could be the greatest in the world at anything. Whether it's Olympics, sports, singing, music, technology, a scholarship, writing, anything. Look at this piece of brilliance and tell me if all you here understand that the Olympics and international competition is high level and Trinbagonians could be like this. Run it, show the people. That's what we're talking about. That's the level. When you see them children, you're putting them in gymnastics, in swimming, in football, in hockey, in badminton, in archery, in whatever sport. That is the level we want to see. That's the level the coaches need to be able to instill daily. That they come easy. My goodness, that was beautiful. Well, that's the end of the beauty. You know, this Douglas politics. So we have to go from beauty to ugly. Stuarty boy, look the man who want to make you your wife and thing. Let me ask you this, Stuarty boy, since, you know, y'all are talking a lot, how come Stuarty boy, the NGC, make a loss, yet they spending all this money on advertisement, Stuarty boy? A lot of money. That's amazing that a company that makes a $4.1 billion loss could be discussing and printing that we're forging a global brand. A global brand of what? And then Rowley says, the next one, Rowley, Stuarty boy, the man can't choose between all you. We come in there to see if all you appeal or if you appeal. But listen to Keith Rowley. After his government spent $250 million and flush it down the toilet with the toilet paper after being utilized. They may use a bidet, you know. Them use toilet paper, Franco men, and throw away $250 million. Here the arrogant clown Keith Christopher Rowley, the man who went to Houston with Stuarty boy. I mean, know if there was bareback and if there was whining with that next one with the thing wrapped around his head. Me, know what they're doing. I don't get involved in their private life. But they went there and they negotiate gas price, and Point Lisa shut down, moved down from 72% capacity down to 17%. 11 companies shut down and gone through. Tax revenue down. We are industries that were competitive and profitable now making zero. Net foreign direct investment minus 439 million US. And here, Rowley, don't jeopardize LNG talks. The Prime Minister has cautioned against anything being done to jeopardize ongoing talks between the government and other stakeholders on the resumption of operations of Atlantic Train 1. Rowley, you didn't hear BP and all the other stakeholders. There are no gas for that. It's not going anywhere. It could only be mothballed. What discussions are you talking about? You are such a dishonest human being. You feel people don't read. The other shareholders made clear cogent business decisions. There is none, nothing, zero, zots. So who you talking to? Them? Them don't tell you that they're going nowhere. So what you talking about? You think you could go Houston and make some other kind of deal? He said, therefore the contracts involved here are huge in terms of value for money, but the confidentiality of these negotiations are important assets. Everything for you is confidentiality. You dotish? Shh. Olio, don't tell the people are stupid, you know. Keep it confidential. Judy Raymond? Shh. Yes. Keep it confidential. Stuarty boy, what we do with that man? Keep it confidential. You are the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and every time you negotiating for people assets, with the people money, the people treasury, you balling about confidentiality. The other shareholders, not or not, they always said that thing ain't going nowhere. You feel we don't read? Next point. I was hearing, and I want all you to put up the video, you know, not the video of this man who's so close and loving with Rowley and Stuarty now, because now Stuarty has more control over where this man is. Stuarty is now the Minister of Energy, so he must be love him like two hogging mud, not just one hog again, like the hog love mud. Run, bareback man, run Stuarty boy, run it.
The first start, this is for Deputy Crowley, and the useful and impeccable Stuarty, we call it. I celebrated the PNM celebration now. So I just give my love it. Stuarty man, I love you, boy.
You could be wife? Yes, sir.
Rowley, you doing? I'm talking to Rowley, Stuarty, Rowley. Yeah. I love what they like. Hog love, boy. And the next come out to celebrate the claiming of the kingdom candidates and of kingdom people. What do you come like this? I tell you what. What's key? What can I say? Oh, it's been the guy of the line.
Oh, God.
But now, who do you want to claim? Celebrating. Ready to be in it. Ready to be in it.
Of course it's appropriate. I mean, if you have a friend and you hear that, you know, something like that happened to me, you wouldn't ask him, you know, what's this about? I mean, I couldn't wait to call him to find out what all this is about. I mean, and he said he doesn't know, right? Because he's not aware of it, right? So, I mean, if I have a friend and I'm accused in that way and the friend doesn't reach out to me to find out what's going on, I will kind of look at you kind of funny.
Kind of funny? Both all you're real funny. But you know what is not funny? That we the people were so stupid to vote for a clown like you. A bareback whining in a TV room, Stuarty boy clown like you, Keith Christopher Rowley. You abject, total failure. You disgusting human being. And then we hearing now $5.5 million for A&V. And some of you was asking me, who is the bareback man whining there? That Rowley friend. That is the A&V man. That is Nizam Bash. You understand? That the boy, man who want to marry Stuarty boy, he can make him his wife. And he loves Stuarty boy, the young and vibrant Stuarty boy, the small pen. He loved the small pen and he loved Rowley. That's who Rowley called. That's who's in the arbitration that they say the government lost. And there has been no appeal 34 days later, even though the senior counsel, Deborah Peake, has said there must be an appeal. There was gross differences of opinion, gross process breaches, and so on. But Kwamina, who's the next hog in the mud, with all of them in the mud now, with bareback, whining in the mud. Kwamina, the next one in the mud, but he not so much like a pig again that tie up his belly and he gets skinny, right? But he, who is Rowley's friend, is now telling us that they're listening to the internal lawyers to determine whether they're going to appeal. And you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, all you take that. When they pull Malcolm Jones out of court, all you take that. When they pull Ken Julian out of court, all you take that. Now they're doing this and no appeal they file, and all you still listening to that clown Rowley. Why you don't take off his crumple up shirt that was not laundered, take off his ugly suit and them, and go bareback and whine in the mud with his boy? Put back his boy. Look, and picture a Rowley there in the TV room, because look, when they come out the SUV as friends, when he call him, that where Rowley went to line 2, and Stuarty boy, run it again and show who's your prime minister and the prime minister friend. Let them whine, let them dance, let them celebrate. PNM, great to see PNM. All you run the PNM, show the PNM now. All of them hogging mud. Put it, run it again.
This is for Dr. T. Crowley and the youthful and impeccable Scotland. We call it, I celebrated the PNM celebration now. So I just give my love it. Just give my love, you boy.
Yes, bye.
If you're that girl, you might have been my wife.
What? Man fighting for husband?
Yeah. I love what you like. Come down, boy. And today I come out to celebrate the claiming of PNM candidates and of PNM people. What do you come by like this? Study by what? What's key? What's that it? Or it's when they are up to mine. But now who do you want to claim?
Yeah.
Celebrating.
Of course it's appropriate. I mean, if you have a friend and you hear that, something like that happened to me, you wouldn't ask him, what's this about? I mean, I couldn't wait to call him to find out what all this is about. I mean, and he said he doesn't know, right? Because he's not aware of it, right? So, I mean, if I have a friend and I'm accused in that way and the friend doesn't reach out to me to find out what's going on, I will kind of look at you kind of funny.
Yes, but the friend who's in charge of the investigation, who's in charge of the board, who's in charge of the entire cabinet, who's in charge of all the assets, who's in charge of decisions that led to the shutdown of Petrotrin, even though all the advice in the country, 64 million, said do not shut down Petrotrin, even though the board, the PNM board of Petrotrin, said do not shut down Petrotrin. Rowley shut down Petrotrin, and that man loved Rowley and Stuarty so much that he wants to take off his shirt and whine with them in the mud. This is a deep kind of intimate love, a love that connects together and leads to all sorts of decisions being made with your money, your assets. That's the man who's the prime minister who called the bareback man when he's under investigation. A PNM board did an audit because things did not add up. A minister, former PNM minister, went to the parliament and said, oh God, they'd move up to 14,000 barrels a day and think from 800. That was said and went through. Now you're talking about the same PNM, the same prime minister who's the friend of the naked man whining in the mud with the hog and them, wanting to marry Stuarty. He and them now went to arbitration after you shut down Petrotrin. We ain't know what was the evidence presented, where the logs was, where's the GPS on the car. Did Dioki Singh give a statement? Where Dioki Singh? What was the evidence put? Where were the guards who did the logbook? Is the logbook there? Were the records there? Where's the information? Where's the information from the tank? Who turned on the pump? How long the pump was on for? How much oil or gas was being pumped out per hour at maximum turn on? Could that have equated? Where's all the information? The senior counsel who is fighting the case on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago says we must appeal. Rowley say, no, that had nothing to do with me. Petrotrin, oh no. That they have their own board and they make their own decisions, and I'm the prime minister. I have nothing to do with that. But he's the same prime minister who, when the board said do not shut down Petrotrin, he shut it down. And now 34 days have gone. What is the outer limit? All of you less there, I don't know. How many more days to go before you are not allowed to appeal? I do not know. We have to find out. And if that happens, what are all of you all going to say? Great is the PNM. Great is Rowley. Left foot, right foot. Hey, where my boy who does whiny head so? Because I want to put he in the mud with Stuarty, Rowley, bareback whiner man, and put Neckman in the mud too. Because you represent all the voters, Mr. Neckman, who you going in the thing too. Wear him. Get me, man. Get the band, man. This great is the PNM. Because if you all allow that, what else is there? What is all your money? It's billions of dollars of your money. What are we doing in this country? And then on top of that, this Rowley who called this man puts his lawyer. Rowley put his own personal lawyer in charge of the company that is in charge to make the decision on how they go forward with the case against Rowley, Mud friend. And y'all think that's great because the UNC corrupt. When the UNC corrupt, the UNC had board members, one board per person, one chairman for one board. None of Kamala friend and family on no board. No Noel Garcia spending all your money. No Newman George spending paria. No Kamala lawyer on top of Heritage Petroleum and personal lawyer. That you can't ask a question, he go say, attorney-client privilege. Kamala, other attorney didn't get no gas bunkering contract and bidding for gas station. And all you really want to believe the nonsense from this dishonest parliamentary liar called Keith Rowley, a man who brought email gate forth after 6 months and continues to lie. All you really can't find Neckman. Run Neckman! Neckman won't buy! You go for the blood with them too! Take up your jersey and go! Yes, man! Oh God! Wine in it! Wine in Neckman! Yes! You go and dance, and if you're good, pulling up the next player back one after quickly. Not the whole thing. Let them join together, and in between the sandwich, put Stuarty and Rowley, and let them all do it. And all you tell Roger to walk with a whole case of Vaseline from Super Farm, and all you go in the mud with the Vaseline, because Trinidad and Tobago, you cannot be serious. All you cannot be serious. All you vote for this, and all you're taking it. Look at all you take. Oh God, yes. I don't even know if you can play both of them. And then Rowley and Stuarty, all you go in the middle, and let that one whiny dip, and this one whiny dip, and all you form a mud cake. Vote PNM. Vote PNM. This is PNM. PNM brilliant. Amazing PNM. Bring election. It's a big one election. Vote PNM. Yes, take them off. All you vote PNM. Vote PNM. This is the worst version of PNM in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. If y'all talk Eric Williams, O'Halloran and Privat was bad, if all you thought that George Chambers was done, if all you thought Patrick Manning with Ken Julian and Calder Hart with Uttara Rao was bad with Rowley and Andre Montai in 2002 to 2010 was bad, this version is the worst, most rotten PNM version in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. In your face. So, Kwamena, are you appealing or are you not appealing? Did the ball pitch in line, moving toward middle stump? Was there any bat in the play? Are you appealing for leg before, or are you going to review the decision? Well, you go ahead and vote PNM. Talking about PNM, Minister Bundles, man. Ministry of what? Education. Experts say school psychologists more critical than ever post-COVID. Yet this is the government that came in September 2015 and cut school psychologists, social workers, and all those who were there, career guidance counselors for those children most in need. They cut the budget of that down to 10% of what it was under Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Tim Gopi Singh. But now they're talking about the critical nature of psychologists. This Minister Bundles, here Minister Bundles, Dr. Nyan Gatsby Dolly said, As the Ministry of Education continues the conversation surrounding inclusive education, more work must be done to ensure that all stakeholders understand the importance of evaluation. An increase in testing assessment means an increase in the knowledge of the population. What have you done to increase the knowledge of the population in anything? An increase in testing, you cannot even find 46,690 children to test them, to see where they have reached. They've missed out on over 16, 17 months of education that can never be recouped. They are gone. There's a lost generation, and you now talking about you will consider increasing the number of psychologists. You have none. They didn't even have any for child psychologists. In the Senate, we had a debate that you had to bring in a foreigner. So what are you talking about? The PNM has cut everything down to school feeding. A hungry child is more adverse and more open to all the deleterious effects on negativity, low self-esteem, and when they'll be unable to perform well. If you hungry, you could go in the parliament and debate. Well, even when your belly full, you can't debate. Your belly full and your head full of bundles. An angry man is a hungry man when they take off the bundles. Here the next one, Foster, as we talk, an angry man. The newspapers trying to build up Foster. All of a sudden they're trying to foster a relationship of confidence with Foster. What's going on with Foster? Did they? Didn't they? Did it really? What it really? What's DSS? Where they going? Did it do? Did they pass? Did they come? Or was it warranted? We don't know. Things just gone quiet. In Trinidad and Tobago, when PNM under investigation and things just go, shh, wait. And Alexander looking for goat. I don't know what's going on in this country now. Here the agriculture. Agriculture, the way to help young people grow. Former market vendor turned politician Foster Cummins. Well, market vendor in Barbados go like to deal with you, Foster Cummins, and ask you about the DSS, ask you about what went on in Laucata Talparo, ask you about them thing, ask you about Foster Cummins hopes that at the end of his political career, whenever that is, to have contributed to the eradication of poverty in Trinidad and Tobago. Number one, the end of your political career is nigh, Foster. They could try to hide it as much as they want, but Foster, you can't hide it forever. So very shortly, by December, Foster, your career might be over, Foster, so whenever that is. So I don't think you could eradicate poverty between now and December. Furthermore, you are part and parcel of a government that has increased poverty, Foster. The poverty rate in September 2015 stood at 16.7%. By 2020, February, before the pandemic, it stood at 23.8%, Foster. During the pandemic, many people have moved into poverty because of the policies of your government, Foster. We have no statistics right now, but one can safely assume that the poverty rate is above 23.8%, Foster. 42% of businesses will never open again. There are foreclosures and people can't pay their loans. They're giving up, they're giving back their houses, they're losing. Middle class has dropped off down into poverty, and those who were poor have fallen below the poverty line. We saw a statistic that over 180,000 citizens in Trinidad and Tobago are living on 1,000 TT dollars a month or less. That's below the poverty line. So Foster, you are in a government that is fostering poverty. It's increasing poverty. It's removing the middle class, obliterating it, and creating the haves, the billionaires, and the have-nots, the poor. So Foster, give your Douglas partner a little rest and foster me some silence, okay? And go and answer them questions from them men. Or they didn't come by you. The Daily Express says, wasting money with impunity. Now this is very interesting. The Express is going to try to create an editorial position based on instances that are occurring now with total wastage, corruption, inappropriate behavior, lack of transparency, and just basically throwing away taxpayers' money by the PNM, by Rowley, by Keith Christopher Rowley, the PNM. That's the position that has occurred. But the Express can't just tell you all that truth right now. They have to obfuscate. Why? Because their mission is to uphold, to try to do as much as they could with the truth, but make sure that their main goal is that Rowley remains electable, the PNM remains in power, because their shareholders make money that way. So they have to try to attempt to get credibility so that people will still buy the newspaper, pay attention to their media, and that they have a job and they could make profit. But the ultimate goal is to keep Rowley, who is in the list of men in this country at the bottom. If you were to line up however many men we have in this country, if you minus 400,000 children out of a million, if it have 465,372 men, Rowley is the last. Rowley is the worst. He don't mind his children, he's leaving outside children outside, he does treat inside children different, he does lie for breakfast, lunch and dinner, he's incompetent, he's a misogynist, he does harass younger minister, wife and all the kind of thing Rowley does do. So Rowley is what we would call in layman terms a scum bucket. Okay? But the Express has to attempt to leave him as some sort of legitimate leader so that we could vote on race and he could get half the votes. Okay? Half of the population. Not half. 1/3, because the bigger portion don't vote. So the Express says, nothing, wasting money with impunity. Nothing better describes the woeful state of governance in this country than the unending waste of public funds. Okay? Clearly, this is to deal with some issues that are going on now. Let's see what the issues are. The Express printed that the CL financial empire and the government paying lawyers has a bill of some 30 million or billion. There was a 30 billion gap and so on, and it's ill-fated, and there's a lot of legal work and investigation and so on. Let us be clear, Express, because Express says that the waste of public funds from one government to another, which tries to show the PNM is wasting money, but the UNC also did. So leave it there, it cancel off. So vote race. All African vote Rowley, all Indian vote so. And leave it just so Rowley and the PNM stay in power. That's the equation being proffered by the mass media. Here's a problem. The entire CL financial debacle came out because of the hateful and vindictive politics of the PNM. The PNM did not allow Lawrence Dupree and the private sector to handle their situation. They concocted this position that Dupree and them were not able so to do, and they created a situation where they wanted to get their hands on the assets of CL Financial, while their Minister of Finance, who was purporting to negotiate on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, while not disclosing the fact that she had 10,000 shares of CL Financial shares and was protecting her wealth, while she ran in a duster and her slippers to take out she and she mother money, and she was negotiating in a room with CL Financial officials and the central bank governor. Poor fella. But the PNM got involved, signed the taxpayers down to a memorandum of understanding that created this debacle. The People's Partnership was handling it and was ready to hand back and take the proposition from the CL Financial shareholders to return the company to them when they fulfill their debt obligation. That was the principled position of the People's Partnership government, to get out as soon as possible and make sure we give back the people and their money, the taxpayers' money. The PNM came in on Emailgate and lies, and now they're going on to move this, sell this. Coleman but is determining who gets what portfolio, and their financiers are licking at the chops as they destroy CL Financial. and they continue to lose taxpayers' money and pay legal fees that the Express is talking about. But the Express fails to just put blame where blame is due on the People's National Movement and the PNM. They then continue. The Express talks about the helicopter. The Sunday Express report calculated legal fees arising from the subsequent investigation at about $611.3 million on a comparatively minuscule scale, but no less wasteful is the state's ill-fated lease of the Sikorsky 76D helicopter, which has cost taxpayers roughly $4 million in legal fees and other still undisclosed fees associated with settlement costs, which could be significant. This again is the wastage of the PNM of Rowley. The People's Partnership had at least signed a contract for a helicopter to keep our people safe. Rowley decided that he don't want to waste money on keeping you safe, just like Rowley decided he didn't want to waste money on buying diesel for Coast Guard vessels to keep you safe. Just like Keith Rowley said, he didn't want to waste money on the air guard and new radar systems on the airplanes to keep you safe. Just like Keith Christopher Rowley did not want to waste money on getting parts and maintenance for the Daemon vessels and the hostile vessels that existed in order to patrol our shores, our coastline, and our borders to keep you safe. Rowley did not want to pay for helicopters and fuel to keep you safe. That is a Rowley decision. So Rowley ignored a legal contract and has led the taxpayers to foot the bill not only for legal costs to fight to defend the indefensible position that Rowley put the country in, but we don't know what was the pain and full sacrifice and all that we had to suffer and pay because of Rowley's incompetence. But here the Express is trying to say, well, it's UNC and it's PNM. No, Express. It's Rowley's PNM. Then they didn't even mention the $250 million that Rowley's PNM threw down the toilet with the Atlantic LNG. But hear what they did now. So now, when it's clear, when you're presented with cogent evidence to show that Rowley's government is the most incompetent and costly government to the taxpayers of this country, and we get no value for money, when that is becoming clear, the Express does the unimaginable. They go back in history to bring up allegations of corruption and so on in order to show or to present a concept or an idea in the mind share of the people that the PNM and the UNC are the same corrupt. You see, when they do that, when they cannot produce an argument that Rowley is good, Rowley is smart, Rowley's government is making sense, Rowley's government is #1 in the world, when they can't do that, they go to the default position, which is PNM bad, UNC bad. Vote race. So let's see, how would the Express, how could it come now? You have 3 examples of PNM wasted right in your face within 10 days. How are they going to drag UNC into this? The culture of state waste with impunity includes, and they go back in history, but they throw in the airport, which was built under UNC, the Piaco Airport, and they also throw in, one more, the wastewater plant. The wastewater plant that was being built, and Rowley, who did not disclose in the parliament when I debated him and responded to him and asked him and gave him a chance to disclose if he ever had an interest in any wastewater plant at the Beetham, Rowley stood up under parliamentary privilege and lied and said he never had any interest in any wastewater plant, whether at the Beetham or elsewhere. And I read from the Hansard back in 2000 when Ganga Singh was the Minister of Public Utilities and the member for Diego Martin West was Keith Rowley, and he stated on his Hansard that he had occasion to go and meet Ganga Singh, the Minister of Public Utilities then, because in his capacity as a geologist, he was representing a group of businessmen who wanted to build a wastewater plant in the Beetham. You see, the media didn't report on that. You all go back and check. Don't take Anil word for it. Go and check the debate on the wastewater plant. They say now that that was wasted money. But the fact is, it was going ahead. It's the PNM who lied and came into power in Emailgate and then shut down the wastewater plant and money gone. So that's another PNM waste. That's not UNC. The UNC was building it to get the benefits, to increase the water supply. End of story. But they didn't put it like that. They didn't talk about the airport. Okay. They say that the airport was budgeted at whatever and it went up to 1.6 billion. But there is an airport. We've been using it for the last 20 years. It built, it's there, planes landing, we go in and out. But that's the UNC corruption. Okay. But look what they compared that to. So the UNC airport corruption, so they say, but everybody using the airport. Project Pride was a PNM thing to divert a river. 400 million spent. The river end divert and nothing build up. But that 400 million just poof, disappear. They also went to talk about the unaccountability runs deep. One might start with the Cora Dam racket of the 1940s, follow the stream that runs into the gas station racket of the 1960s. The gas station racket of the 1960s is the PNM. The DC-9 and Caroni racing track scandals of the 1970s and 80s, the Express does not state it. That's the PNM. The airport scandal of the 1990s that they say, right? The racing track, over $340 million back then, which is about $1.5 billion now, and no racing track. A horse he meet a blade of grass. But they're comparing that to the UNC airport that flying in and out. You're going to Tobago, you're going to England, you're going to Guyana, borders locked down. Delcy Rodriguez land on the Piaco airport. She come through the Piaco terminal that the UNC built. Delcy and the 5 pay the PESA officials when the borders close on a sanctioned jet. The sanctioned jet land in the airport. How much horse race in Caroni? But the Express leaving out that. Just throwing nonsense into the pot of Kalalu, a little crab and pigtail, right? But leaving it so. They continued. The collapse of CL Financial, that is PNM, that is Teixeira, that is Manning, that is Colmimbat, that is PNM. The Petrotrin's GTL plant, that is Malcolm Jones with his attorney Stewarty, dancing in the mud hog. Man want to make him his wife. Stewarty small pin. You're not putting these things, Express. You're just throwing out a bag of information for the population to believe. Oh, PNM wasting the money. They're suffering people needy. They're calling you greedy. They're suffering you. They're taxing you. They're incompetent. But UNC just as bad. That's what they do. And it's not true. They continue. Let's go again. This week, they await Cabinet's announcement on the future of Atlantic LNG, the $250 million. That is PNM. And the explanation for the National Gas Company's inexplicable decision to spend $250 million and counting on a project, all but shuttered by the majority shareholders. That is PNM. What you bringing UNC into that for? The PNM has led this country for 49 out of 61 years. The PNM is the most corrupt government in the history of this country. And when the PNM thief, them the thief win because you don't even see nothing. So if your point is corruption, then the PNM should never be in the halls of power. But this is what the Express does. And the Express, in its list of corruption, it left out Taruba. Taruba that was budgeted first at $175 million under the Calder Heart PNM. and ballooned till Rowley PNM spent an extra $90 million to complete it, to play 4 cricket match where women get wet. They had on the eyelash and the makeup. The eyelash end up on the lipstick, on the lip gloss, because the roof so badly designed that the rain blow in and blow off the eyelash. All the makeup and the mascara, even Al-Rawi mascara was running down in the nose hole down in the Taruba Stadium that was completed for $1.3 billion. $1 billion, over $1 billion of corruption all over the Caribbean. They built stadium for the World Cup 2007 cricket at an average cost of $5,000 per seat. That Taruba Stadium under the PNM works out to a whopping $133,500 per seat. You left out that express and stamp it with a PNM pen. As we talk about that express, we're talking about corruption, impropriety, misbehavior in public office, and we're talking about a man dancing bareback and wants Stuarty and Rowley to come and dance with him in the mud. I'm going to link those now. You all think I could link that? The express is printing here about WASA. Now this is a very interesting story. No, it's not I wouldn't say it's a major issue at WASA right now, because right now we are studying that the PNM is coming to bust the throat of some 3,000 to 3,750 WASA workers. That the PNM is coming to ensure that we have to pay more for water and triple our water rates 300% up. That's what is worrying us right now. But in this story, we are seeing allegations of interference, misbehavior in public office, coercion, attempts to twist the truth, to pervert the course of labor justice or investigation involving the Minister of Public Utilities. And in the Express, it is reported that the WASA investigator was investigating a matter that I couldn't even understand how this matter was so critical. Now it led to some very serious things and gives us an insight into the abuse of power, the lack of democracy, the perversion of justice, and the clouded judgment of the PNM and the PNM ministers. This is an issue that somebody saw 2 WASA workers in a vehicle. And somebody recognized one of the men in the vehicle and realized that that man was driving a WASA vehicle and that he was not authorized to drive that said vehicle. And this big person in the PNM took it upon himself to ensure that a report was made that a WASA employee driving a WASA van should not have been driving the WASA van, and therefore he need to be punished. Now, I find that PNM person have a lot of time to waste, but it leads to many questions. WASA van and them have tint because man does be walking in the hot sun and so on when they need to cool down and so on. How? And it is reported from the investigator that the initial report about the man in the van was made by Minister Marvin Gonzalez, the one who does wear makeup. I saw him wearing some makeup like Al-Rawi. I don't know what's going on with the PNM. I mean, Keith Scotland, help me now. Randall Mitchell, somebody help me now. Amory Brown, somebody help me. All you help me now, man. Marvin Gonzalez, help me now. Stuarty boy. Faris Ala Mascara, all you help me. What's going on? I noticed in Nevada that a man win a Miss Nevada USA competition. Me I know where the world going. I thought Miss this is for woman. But anyway, like the PNM, all you getting confused. Yes, this fella here, makeup man. Let me ask you this. How you know a man so good that you see he in through a tint driving past, and you know that what is he level at WASA, and he's only supposed to drive truck and crane but not supposed to drive pickup, and you know that the next man was the authorized driver, and you take time out of your schedule to go and report that to WASA about a man driving a van and a tan plant. What is going on? we go deal with the other serious issues first, but I'm confused, and the Douglas don't like to be confused. Hey fellow, what's going on, makeup man? I don't even think if my brother driving somebody else's car and he drive past and I in a function, I might even make out my brother through the thing. And that my flesh and blood, that my brethren, that who I grew up with, who I fight with, who we eat cornflakes and fried plantain with butter Malaysian style. That's my brother who I swim with up and down in the pool. We cuss each other, we hug up, we line, we cheer each other on. I might even recognize my brother in a van, far less to know that he's not supposed to drive the van, that he didn't get Sharon permission. How much van, how much vehicle was that? How this man know that a man not authorized to drive a WASA van? It's a lot of intimate knowledge. And then on top of that, is that really such a sin? Suppose his partner had cramp in his foot. Suppose he had an ingrown toenail. Suppose he stumped his toe when they was trying to drill to fix a leak and they jackhammer his foot and he couldn't drive. And the other WASA employee was driving. That is really such a critical issue that you makeup man, had to go and put a report on a man and make sure and send senior managers to make sure the man get punished. That's something sketchy. I wonder if it had grammar zone by WASA. You going and drink grammar zone? What it is? I don't understand. And all your Douglas politics people, all you help me understand, because all of this bacchanal, it have managers taking instruction and going, and then the executive director end up resigning, and oh God, look at it end up resigning and all kind of thing. This is not about 4 billion gallons of water pullback. This is not about 4 billion gallons of water being wasted per month. This is not about the inability of households to get water. This is not about people losing jobs, 3,500 jobs. This is not about WASA not being able to pay its bill. This is not about water rates going up. This is not about the RIC. This is not about, my goodness, it's a man in a van. Oh Lord, that's so important. You is the minister of man. Who you is? I don't understand. Somebody help me. I begging all to help me. This is the minister of man. It's not right. Now the other things, Express, I see like all you drop the story like a hot potato. An investigator is being told he wanted a statement from this man who initially, it's reported, made the initial report about the man in the van with the tan plan. And he didn't like that, so he went by Zan. He wanted to go by Fran, but he stayed with the man. But the man went somewhere else. The man is vexed with the man. Why are you so vexed with that man? I never get so vexed with that man. I detest Rowley, but I can never get so vexed with Rowley that I have to go and report him for driving the wrong vehicle, driving Judy Raymond vehicle. I ain't letting know my business. You enjoy, mash gas. So we watching that. Taxpayers lose millions in vertical helicopter matter. All you pay attention to Rudal Munilal. Now, I see we got a new EU ambassador. Newly appointed European Union ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Peter Cavendish. Now, Peter Cavendish, welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, first of all. Listen to me very carefully, Peter. This is not a banana republic. We've been independent since 1962. We have some modicum of intelligence, and we don't really appreciate people who do not know what's going on in this country, who are just coming here as visitors to take up a job, to put their mouth in our business. In other words, Peter, shut up, son. Stay in your lane and be very careful of that of which you speak. Okay, Peter? Are you hearing me, Peter? Because you'll have to eat some Yorkshire pudding, maybe some baked beans with fried egg, and some link sausages, because you're talking nonsense. Let me tell my people what Peter came. Peter just came, Peter just landed in Piarco. The borders opened up, and oops, Hair dropped Peter. And Peter came to my country and is trying to tell me about what's going on in my country. I don't think that's right, Peter. I think you should go and worry about the Queen and whether she likes her black daughter-in-law or not. Don't worry about us down here, okay? Listen to Peter. Newly appointed European Union Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Peter Cavendish, has praised the country's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, saying the early decision to close the country's borders may have averted a great tragedy. Well, Peter, 1,043 citizens, my citizens, are dead, Peter. That's a tragedy, Peter. That's a tragedy for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. 1,043 of us are dead, Peter. Secondly, Peter, the borders, legitimate borders, may have been closed, Peter, but the Brazilian variant and COVID-19 came in through a flood of porous borders, Peter. So you praise a government that you don't know anything about for closing the airport, Peter. There are 141 other points where illegal immigration was coming through the South American continent across the Trinidad and Tobago, putting our lives at risk, Peter. We've been on perennial lockdown, shutdown, and brockdown, Peter. People are starving. People are losing their businesses, their houses, their land, Peter. And it's a tragedy across the board. Unemployment is at the highest rate in the history of our country. Our people are starving and needy. And Peter, you should have come with hampers rather than with your big mouth, Peter. You should shut your mouth, Peter. You're fast and flipping out of place. I don't know who told you or who gave you or what diplomatic manual you read that makes you feel you can land here with your pink self and come here to discuss with me what is going on in my country when you have no clue, Peter. So I'm going to read on, Peter, and see what did you do? What sort of research, what sort of information, what sort of investigation, what sort of data? How long did you spend to come to these strong positions, Peter? Let's see, Peter, because I don't want to call you a dunce yet. Not yet. Let me see where you got this information from. Acknowledging the impact of the pandemic on the country's economy, Cavendish said, TNT has managed the pandemic well overall. Okay. When I was reading about this country before I came here, you were being compared to New Zealand, and both countries have the advantage of being islands, which means you have more control over your borders. So in the early months of this crisis, probably a great tragedy was avoided. It's clear that the government has made a huge effort to go out there and obtain additional. Let's go bit by bit. So Peter, before you heard about this country, you read something. And you read something where we were being compared to New Zealand? Was that an in-depth analysis? Was that a data sheet from the Ministry of Health? Did you go to the morgue in Trinidad and Tobago? Did you conduct autopsies on the 1,043 dead people? Did you see the spike in our rate after we went to Tobago? Did you know that the Brazilian variant was here, and from May 11th, 90% of cases and all of those deaths, over 752 deaths, were due to the Brazilian variant that came here through illegal immigration? Peter Cavendish, are you serious? You read an article? Congratulations, Peter. It must have been difficult for you to read an article. You read an entire article and then came here to Trinidad and Tobago to open your big mouth, Peter. Oh my goodness, your mama and papa must be so proud of you, Peter. I suggest, Peter, you shut up. Okay, Peter? If you don't want to do the work, shut your mouth. We're not a banana republic, Peter. We don't look up to you because you're pink and we think that everything you say, we go, oh, Peter, oh. No, Peter. Wait, Peter, wait. Look, Cecil Rhodes by the gate. Down here is Trinidad and Tobago, Peter. Very bright people, Nobel laureates, world champions, Olympic gold medalists, brilliant people, businesses, Answer McCall, and financial, brilliant people down here, Peter. You can apologize if you want, Peter. I know it's very difficult for someone who's of your age. You grew up in a time where you may not have a Douglas like me who's so forthright and uppity to tell you to shut up. I know you may not have experienced that, but we kind of independent down here. We've been kind of intelligent. We study and we can speak English very well. So you will find that we are quite uppity, especially when it comes to our patriotism and what's going on in our country. And you should stay out of our politics, our decision making, and don't just read one article and tell us that you're an expert on Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, Peter? You also said, Peter, it's clear that the government has made huge effort to go out there and obtain additional vaccines. As a non-expert, I think they did very, very well. Let's analyze your statement, Peter. Let's say, maybe, knock on wood, you get a lump on your neck or something. Would you go by a mechanic and ask him to check it out for you, or an air-conditioned technician? Because you said you're not an expert, but yet you're giving us your expert opinion on something that you know nothing about, Peter. If you're not an expert, Peter, the next word should be, shh. I'm not an expert. Hi, it's nice to be here. I love the climate. I came in on a taxi and the driver was very friendly. I think you've got a lot of beautiful women. They're all mixed, all kinds of different types. I've never seen such beauty. That's what you talk about, Peter. Okay? We are last in vaccinations. Our people are dying. We are only getting CIAO. We cannot even get donations from India, USA, or anywhere else. Our vaccination program is woefully late. We are 8 months in and we are only at 30%. We need to get to 75% for herd immunity. We've been on lockdown and we've suffered and lost $25 billion, Peter, of our GDP. People are starving and suffering. People are in need of hampers. Your government that you think you're praising has told people that if they come for 2 hampers in 6 months, that they're greedy and they're not needy. We are in a total tragedy, Peter, and people are dead. So, Peter, I think you should go somewhere else. Ask for a transfer, Peter, because you came to the wrong place. If you thought you could come here and we worship your stupidity, your ignorance, and your uninformed comment, Peter. So welcome to Trinidad and Tobago. Enjoy your stay, Peter. Only a matter of time before the Delta variant arrives here. I tell earlier that the Rowley plan, porous borders, Ethelbert, small pin, incompetence, no border protection. Now everybody talking, Delta must come. Like it's an airline. It's like American Airlines and Delta, they come into land. But I told you all, because of the incompetence, they would have to take in front. Archie, all you run that video now. Run it and show Delta. And talking about the Indian variant, which is now called the Delta variant, which they are saying is more infectious than even the Brazilian variant. He is telling us that we safe like Selassie briefcase. There's one major problem, people. One big problem. The Brazilian variant didn't come through no airport. It didn't come through no system of repatriation. The Brazilian variant came through porous, unprotected borders that the PNM has not protected by the influx of illegal immigrants from Venezuela. That's where the Brazilian variant came. Case number 1, case 0, number 1 was an illegal immigrant who came from Venezuela with the Brazilian variant. From May 11 to present, 90% of our infections and deaths have been because of the Brazilian variant. Dr. Hines speaks nothing about porous borders, nothing about him instructing, advising, or telling the government, listen, I am seeing and sensing that you have done nothing differently in the porous borders. The Brazilian variant came in through the porous borders. The Indian variant and Delta variant, whatever you want to call it, is going to come through the porous borders. You are going to make my job harder if you do not protect the porous borders. Where's the Coast Guard? I see that big mouth Annie Roberts went fishing and all the Coast Guard boats park up, lock up. Where the helicopters? Where the army? Where the boats? Where the Raider, what's going on? Why, Dr. Hines? Why are you playing games? Your job is to protect us. The real risk of Delta variant is not through a sustained scientific quarantine period, vaccination, temperature checks, quarantine moves or PCR tests from people coming in and out through legitimate ports. The real threat to us as we have lived and died is through the porous borders. Yet you don't talk that. So don't worry. When they open the borders, we safe, says Dr. Hines. Isn't that very sad? And all of us sit there, and all of our lives are in the hands of this kind of pliable political shenanigans from someone who's supposed to be a professional. Nobody asks you to be PNM or UNC, you know. Just talk the science, talk the facts, and stop talking nonsense.
En Venezuela hemos descubierto 2 casos de cepa delta ya. Hemos descubierto 2 casos. Los 2 venidos del exterior. El caso número 1, el caso de un joven deportista que llegó de Turquía, deportista del estado Miranda, y dio el PCR positivo al cepa delta. Él tuvo contacto comprobado con 30 personas, esas 30 personas se le hicieron las pruebas y afortunadamente dieron negativo. Un segundo caso de cepa delta, una médica, una mujer profesional de la salud de 56 años que reside en Caracas, vino del exterior también y no ha...
Guardian found Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines to alert him and to ask him what has been done and what is being done, because the Indian variant has been confirmed in Venezuela. The Indian variant that killed over 304,000 citizens of India within a 12-week period. Dr. Richards, speaking during the Ministry of Health virtual media briefing, she said symptoms were the same and so on. Abdul Richards added, at this point in time, there are no confirmed cases of Delta variant in Trinidad and Tobago. Addressing confirmed concerns at the Sinopharm, she gone to the next topic, you know. She just state that categorically for all you, and all you want me take this kind of thing serious. Something so critical, something so serious, not an iota of scientific testing evidence, just a statement from she, and that is it. But then I go now and I look, PAHO director, Delta variant in the Caribbean. PAHO also reported detections of the Delta variant in Mexico, French Guiana, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Peru. The Delta variant is 1.2 times more transmissible than others. It's in 95 countries. So this lady, PAHO, telling me about where Delta is all over the place, but testing, sampling, and so on. This one telling me it's not done.
The exact date in July, we expect, is Monday 17th. The Saturday 17th of July, that's when we expect to go back to scheduled services, open our borders to those categories of people. So this is a major development at a time when we also are keeping our eyes on this whole question of the Delta virus, which is beginning to appear in the United States, has not been identified in our country just yet, is very popular, 85% in the UK, appears to be very popular in Africa, and we still have the P1 virus out of South America into the Caribbean from there.
You see how they start a lie from in front? We have been telling you and putting the country on notice that the Indian variant had arrived in Brazil 3 weeks ago, that it was noticed and announced by Maduro 16 days ago, that we have porous borders and we have Ethelbert. and that Indian Delta variant will make its way here because nothing has been done, no proactive decisions, nothing is different. The Coast Guard is the same, the border, the radar is the same, that dead people on a boat could float past. No army camps have been set up in the Southwest Peninsula, no vehicles with flood lighting to patrol during the night, no extra police roadblocks down there, nothing to stop illegal immigrants. The only thing that may have stopped it right now is that messages from here to Venezuela say, don't come here, it had no work, everybody suffering, everybody hungry. So same thing, at least over there all you're talking Spanish, but they come to start to say that the Delta variant will arrive through the repatriation of citizens. Really? No variant has hit community spread through the repatriation process that is designed and dictated by PAHO, WHO, or Ministry of Health, all health agencies globally, that when you come in with your testing, especially if you're vaccinated and double dose vaccinated, you come in your quarantine, you stay there, you spend time, you test, and you test 2, 3, 4 times, and then you are released into the population. No spread has come from that, not one spread. All of our variants and our spread and the things that are killing us come through the porous borders, but them start to create a narrative already that they go in and open the borders and Delta will come and we go dead. They telling you from in front, we are incompetent and you will dead. And that's the government we have.
Now, in one of them thing I had on the same shirt, don't call me no one shot. But I went back, and Vishnu went back to show you what the UNC was saying, because don't try to say we're the same. I told you in advance of what Rowley and his incompetent, dishonest, lying bunch was trying to do. They were instructed that they had to open the airport because it was non-competitive, it was uncompetitive, it was monopolistic to have Caribbean Airlines being the only one flying in and out while other airlines could not utilize and make money here. But they had to, because you can't tell me the science, you locked down the borders and so on, and we had 0 cases last year, March 22nd to September, to August, September. We had 54 days within that period, 0 cases, 0 community spread, but borders locked down and closed down to even citizens. But now with Brazilian variant, with deaths, 700 deaths in 2 months, you're opening borders. Delta variant was noticed, as I said there, I showed you all, it was tested and found in Brazil, it was tested and found in Venezuela, and it would have been here, it probably is here, but they was trying to say and sell you a narrative from since then, from 7 weeks ago. Hey, well, the Delta everywhere, when we open the borders, well, the Delta might come, and then all of these doctors who are coming there with the PNM salaries, these Abdul Richards who on 4 PNM board, the next one Dr. Hines who refused to answer whether he got a scholarship from Joe Newell Williams, from Dr. Petrotrin who start off as a sweet boy and end up in the mud with bareback with that man and Rowley and Stuarty. All of them and the neck man go be in the mud partying and drinking rum and soda. While they whining on each other bareback. Parasam in that too, because he is talking one bag of nonsense. But look, another doctor talking about the variant, UE professor molecular genetics and virology Christine Carrington says TNT has not yet recorded an incidence of the Delta variant. Okay, I'm very interested. We haven't recorded. Please tell me in the last, because that period there, in the last 6 weeks, please tell the Douglas, we had 3,000 positive tests for COVID-19, and we screened those 3,000 tests for the Delta variant, and we found not one. I say, all right, information, science, statistics are cool. I saying, okay, we still going good. Let we lock down them borders because we opening back the economy. Immigrants, illegal immigrants gonna start to come back, and we don't want them coming back here with no Delta. But let me read now. I want to hear the science. During the Health Ministry's virtual press conference on Saturday, she said not all COVID-19 samples were tested for the variants. Okay, so not all. So I already am disappointed, because I would say you have tests, you have COVID-19 positive, test all. That way we have full information. But no, all right, let me see. PNM can't be held to that high standard of performance. We know they're incompetent, so let's see. They continue that Unless we screen every single person in Trinidad, you're not going to detect the first case of the Delta variant. I thought that's a bit of a ridiculous, stupid statement. What do you mean test? You don't have to screen every single person in Trinidad and Tobago, 1.39 million Trinis and the other 200,000 Venezuelans for that. What you have to do is screen every positive test. So if you have 120 positive tests in a day, screen the 120 positive tests. If you have 85 positive tests right now, today, screen all 85 positive tests. You don't have to screen 1.5 million people. There is a bit of a lag time between detection and when a virus arrives in the country. Yeah, that might be normal for a normal country who's testing properly and telling us honestly the science and so on, and we don't have political shenanigans in a COVID-19 fight. They will have a lag time. But here, it's not a lag time, it's a late time, because that Delta variant could have been here a long time, because our people are dying. The mortality rate in our ICU is off the chains. We are the worst in the world. Once you reach ICU and coffin is the same thing in Trinidad and Tobago. And then just a matter of time, says CMO Petrotrin, it's only a matter of time before Trinidad and Tobago gets its first case of the Delta variant, as it's more transmissible than the P1 Brazilian variant. More transmissible, since that Brazilian variant came in here on illegal immigrants, when Dr. Heinz, Petrotrin and Convan Girl was trying to tell me, no, it's not Venezuela, we are not Venezuelan hospital. And Dr. Heinz said, we ain't test no Venezuelans, they are not responsible for COVID-19. Remember all of that? Then they had to come and say, yes, boy. The Brazilian variant reached the first person tested. It was an illegal immigrant. They had to admit that 5 weeks later. And in this COVID-19 fight, time is of the essence. But here, Dr. Petrotrin, the P1 Brazilian variant, according to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Petrotrin, it's more transmissible. The Delta is more transmissible than the P1 Brazilian variant, which since May 11th has been responsible for 90% of our infections, 90% of our deaths, and that's about 760 dead people. And they say in the Delta worse than that. But don't worry. Prime Minister Keith Rowley also warned on Thursday that it is inevitable the highly infectious Delta variant will reach Trinidad and Tobago. So the PNM strategy is, we incompetent, we can't do nothing. We didn't protect the borders before COVID, we didn't protect the borders during COVID. The borders are porous now, and therefore Delta variant will come. Welcome death, all you're dead, hope you're alright. Bless, let me go and spend all your money. That's the PNM philosophy and strategy. That's what they're implementing, with the aided and abetted by these doctors who are on state board by the PNM. Run Petrotrin for me, just to double check. Run that Petrotrin. I hope I don't ever see you. I really hope so. Run it.
And Brazil's P1 variant seems to be the most dominant COVID-19 variant in the country at this time. This from Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Petrotrin, who said the Caribbean Public Health Agency, or CARPHA, continues to test for variants of concern within the population.
The other variants that have showed up before are the B117, which is the UK variant, and the P1 variant. That's the variants of concern. We haven't picked up to this point or confirmed any of the Delta variants or any of the South African variants.
While TNT has crossed the 1,000 death toll, Dr. Petrotrin said that the country does not have one of the highest COVID death rates in the world. He said it depends on who is infected. For example, people with comorbidities are more susceptible to the virus.
Dr. Heinz has said that we have seen a large proportion of the people over 60 being infected. 85% of our deaths have occurred in people over the age of 50. Those under 50 that have succumbed to the illness have also been, to the most part, with a few exceptions, had comorbidities of some type.
According to the CMO, TNT recorded a one.
Yes, well, we're back. And understand this very carefully. Not only are they blaming old people for dying and contracting COVID, and that Dr. Petrotrin is espousing the same ridiculous view and victim blaming as Convent Gyal Singh. But he continued, and this is from the Express, Saturday Express, 24th July. Rowley, first of all, said it was unreasonable to expect that as the world is being ravaged by the Delta variant and we are part of the mixing world, that we will be able to sterilize ourselves. Then why did you shut the borders on March 22nd, 2020? If it would be unreasonable to expect that we could sterilize ourselves from COVID-19. You kept our citizens out and did not allow repatriation. Your exemption process kept 30,000 people out of an election, denied them their opportunity to perform their civic duty. So if it's unreasonable to expect that we will stay sterilized, what the hell you closed the borders for 17 months for? Because wouldn't it have been unreasonable then? How come it's only unreasonable now, Rowley? See? Ask yourselves that question. So it means that all the people, the closure of the borders was a complete failure and it was unreasonable. And all the pressure and the oppression of people who were left out, homeless, starving, without jobs, and are now bankrupt was unnecessary based on Rowley. But then Parsram tries to back up Rowley too. The CMO said, well, he doesn't really back him up. He makes us frightened. That one person infected with the Delta variant can infect up to 8 people. It's a highly transmissible virus that we have to be prepared for. The CMO said if the Delta variant affects the parallel healthcare system, this country would have no choice but to revert to strict measures to contain its spread. So on top of that now, Paris, I'm telling all you, their incompetence, porous borders, Delta variant, which probably here already, will be here. It must come. It's unreasonable to think that we could ever stay sterilized and we will go into another lockdown when it reaches. That's another stage of suffering, starvation, and pain because of the incompetence of Rowley and his government. The big question in the Express, are you fearful of the Delta variant coming to the shores? Paulette Barrow, this was brilliant. I am? No. We should organize a pan side and some tantans and a saga boy to go to the airport to welcome it. Of course we are fearful. The government are the ones to fear. They're worse than the pandemic itself. Useless and incompetent, wicked and waste of time. More fearful of the crashed economy, says Damian James. Ross Johan, fearful of the present state of the economy, the healthcare, and the way the country is collapsing. People are now becoming aware of the total incompetence of Keith Christopher Rowley and his government. Ansel Senaswi, our borders were closed and we still got COVID last year. So why be fearful? Everything out there ends up in TNT anyway. So don't be surprised if it's already here. Aaron Manchabali, it's probably here already. That's why the borders open. So they will have something to blame it on. Very sharp, very smart citizens. Vance Bola Singh, I fear the intelligence of the health minister and the incompetence of the Ministry of Social Development. Very good. And Marita August, I am more afraid of our government officials with high food prices, loss of jobs, dictatorship, no forward planning, etc. Feels like there's no easy way out. Our belts are so tight, the virus is secondary. Shaking my head. But citizens are waking up. Hines, Avery Hines, can we play it or no? Archie, play it there, man. Play Avery Hines because he said immigrants, porous borders, this is not the problem. We are good, everything is good. And now that we open the borders through a repatriation process, a quarantine process, PAHO, Ministry of Health, that has been functioning well, all of a sudden they're saying it's inevitable that the Delta variant will be here. This is absolute nonsense. Run it.
We have data in terms of how many non-nationals have had COVID-19 in Trinidad. We have data in terms of how many non-nationals have had COVID-19 in Trinidad and whether among the death toll, whether there are non-nationals among that number. Thank you.
Okay, this question recurs from time to time, and each time the answer is given, it's the same. The number of individuals that have been diagnosed with COVID-19 was never really disaggregated by nationality. for several reasons. One of them being nationality is not one of the things that's collected as a data field when the information on your lab request form is being taken down. Now, it also doesn't really matter for the simple reason that once there's a living, breathing human being on the landmass, then they contribute to both the risk and to the risk reduction by either acquiring the virus or by being vaccinated in the same manner. So it's not one of the fields that was really being calculated or tabulated to disaggregate the data by. There have been very small numbers of individuals who have been identified as non-nationals, but as it was not a field that was being regularly or rigorously collected, it's not something that we can give a statistic on. And no, I do not believe, but I could be wrong, I don't believe that any of the fatalities that we have noted were noted among non-nationals, or maybe there may have been, but again, as we said, we're counting everyone as human being living, breathing on landmass of Trinidad and Tobago.
I don't think, I don't feel, I don't know, maybe on human beings, all of us are human. That is a scientist. That is information to the population about our lives, our children, our grandparents. That's a doctor giving us information. Oh no, I feel, I don't know, but we're all on this rock. No, we need to know who came on the rock illegally during a lockdown and who could have brought COVID-19 to spread with the rest of us who on the flipping rock. This is criminal negligence. This is continuing and it is so disgraceful. It's not funny. When I show you the doctors in Tobago who are just doing their job, if that's the job, I don't know where they find this Avery Hines, this clown from. Oh, we don't know what we feel. We now maybe, and science is test, result, information. End of story. This is criminal negligence and requires a commission of inquiry into this whole thing. And let me tell you something. The man who made the case better than I could, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, listen very carefully because he's making a case and telling you exactly why these doctors who he taught, he may not be proud of his students right now, but he taught them, and he's showing that the PNM and the mismanagement of the COVID-19 response, leading to 1,043 dead citizens, needs investigation. We need answers. Listen to a real doctor, a UNC doctor. Listen to real leadership. Tim Gopi Singh, come in.
As we speak, there are approximately 194 million COVID-19 positive cases worldwide and 4,160,000 deaths. The United States has had about 610,000 deaths, India 419,000, Brazil 548,000, Russia 150,000, France 112, and UK 129. Now, India's population is about 1.4 billion, and our population is 1.4 million. So India's population is 1,000 times Trinidad and Tobago. So by extrapolation, if we have over 1,000 deaths now, 1,000 by 1,000 is 1 million, so our death rate is equivalent to 1 million of deaths in India. But India's death rate is 419,000. So our death rates in Trinidad and Tobago is approximately twice that of India. So when we in Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world were concerned about the amount of deaths occurring in India, here it is right in Trinidad and Tobago, we had twice the death rate as that of India. In the World Odometer's publication of COVID-19 cases and deaths per million in 203 countries as of July 22nd, 2021, Trinidad and Tobago death rate, 719 deaths per million population. 719 deaths per million population. We are number one in the Caribbean in terms of the highest death rates per million population, and number 53 in the world. Jamaica, with 2.95 million population, had 394 deaths per million. They are ranked number 71, better than Trinidad and Tobago. And Barbados ranked 143, even better than Trinidad and Jamaica. So we are worse than countries like Libya, Iraq, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, United Arab Emirates, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and Haiti, which has a death rate of 118 per million population. Cuba has a death rate of 182. They have 182 deaths per million. So our death rate is 4 times that of Cuba in terms of where we are. Now let's look at vaccinations. 27% of the world's population have received 1 dose, and 13.6% of the world population fully vaccinated. That's about 1 in 8 of the world population, which is about 7.4 billion globally. 3.83 billion doses have been administered globally, and 30 million doses are administered on a daily basis globally. Where are we in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the 33 Caribbean countries that are reported about in Johns Hopkins University reports, the World Odometer, and WHO reports? 28 Caribbean countries out of the 33 have vaccinated a larger percentage of their population. 28 out of 33 have vaccinated a larger percentage of their population than Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is 5th to last in our Caribbean 33 countries at 17% vaccination. St. Kitts Nevis is 49%, Barbados 34%, Guyana 31%, Antigua and Barbuda 36%. And the Ministry of Health, you remember Minister Diyal Singh saying we are first in the world, when they were dealing with the testing and from Oxford University. Well, here we are, unfortunately, by their management, we are 5th to last in the Caribbean countries in terms of vaccination at 17%. How unfortunate, and what we consider total mismanagement. And just yesterday, Minister Diyal Singh, with his nonsense propaganda, talking about we are 7th in vaccination. 7th in vaccination, he came up yesterday and said, but we have 17% of vaccination for Trinidad and Tobago, and we are 5th to last out of the 33 countries in the Caribbean. But when Minister Diyal Singh doesn't even know what is the national anthem, what do you really expect? Do you really expect him to have a lot of discipline, production, and tolerance? I think we have to have a lot of that to tolerate Minister Diyal Singh, discipline, production, and tolerance. So, as I speak to you on the major issues related to the over 850 COVID-19 deaths in May, June, and July of 2021, nearly 10 deaths per day at an average, and also his hapless statement made by the Minister of Health, and even statements made by the Prime Minister and Chief Medical Officer regularly, and the other 3 doctors. Have we asked at all why has there been a surge in deaths over the last 80 days? And how many of the lives could have been saved? Did the 850 citizens who died, did they all have to die? Could their deaths been prevented? We have been asking for months for information related to that, from the 4 doctors, the Minister of Health, the Prime Minister, and can they account for the deaths of these COVID-19 positive patients who became critically ill and died? No answer has been forthcoming. Where did they die? Did they die at home? How many died in the ambulances while being transported to the hospitals? Did they die in the emergency tents at the San Fernando Hospital, the Eric Williams Medical Science Complex, and General Hospital, Port of Spain? Those answers are not forthcoming. How many died in the intensive care units and the high dependency units of Couva Hospital, Cora Hospital, Arima Hospital, and Augustus Long Hospital. How many died because of serious mismanagement? Mismanagement of the system by the Minister of Health and his team. The Minister, Prime Minister, and their medical teams of Drs. Parasram, Hines, Dr. Abdul, and Dr. Trotman have never sought to provide any information to the nation on these issues. Is it deliberate? Why have they failed to do so? Why have they failed to do so despite these questions being asked for months? Why do they continue to hide under their incompetence? Because they know that they could be found guilty of not taking timely appropriate action to prevent the loss of lives in the ICUs and HDUs, particularly over May, June, and July 2021, and still continuing. The Minister of Health and his team have deliberately failed to provide this information on the mortality rates of the ICU, intensive care unit, and the high dependency unit. How many have been admitted to these units, and how many are fortunate to be alive today? No answer has been forthcoming. So how would be to determine the efficiency and effectiveness of medical care in the ICU and HDU? Thousands of citizens in Trinidad and Tobago have been asking these questions. They have been calling me, asking me. I said, I don't know. The ministry has failed to. So instead of these three doctors on a daily basis standing before the television, talking and having political platitudes and so on, they should do the research work and present that information to the population. I believe I reminded Dr. Parasram of that at some subsequent time about a month ago. And what is the mortality rate in the ICU and HDU? Because people want to know if when the families go in there, is there a chance of them coming out alive? From my understanding, that is not 9 out of 10 from what I've been told, or 8 out of 10 pass away, unfortunately, in the ICU units. We have to get the information from the authorities. They will not tell the population that information or give them, because they know that is we are one of the worst in the world in terms of management in the intensive care units and ICUs. They are ashamed to provide this statistical data. Let me go on to what in the Trinidad Guardian, July 21st, Minister Dayal Singh said, there is, and I want to quote him, "There is nothing we could have said to have done better or differently. Some good could come out of this if those who are diabetic take better care of themselves so they don't become statistics for other pandemics." Unquestionably, this statement by Minister Dayal Singh is abominable, it is callous, it is insensitive, and totally unacceptable. He said this in a cold, remorseless manner. Imagine the Minister of Health saying something good has come out of 1,000 patients dying from COVID-19. What good could come out of 1,000 patients dying from COVID-19? This is disgraceful and a heartless statement. And he should be fired just on making that statement alone. You saying that it is good that 1,000 patients have died and something good will come out of it? Or he should have resigned himself. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the immeasurable grief and suffering of these 1,000 families. Where is his humanity and compassion for the grieving families, some of whom generations have been wiped out, as we saw recently in the newspaper? Here it is. 1,000 deaths have taken place in Trinidad and Tobago over a period of time. And particularly within May, June, July, TNT records a grim milestone and the faces of the unfortunate citizens who have passed away. And then here it is again. CMO, diabetes, a leading cause of death. COVID wipes out family. Mother, daughter, granddaughter die. Yes. Did we really have to reach there if work was being done properly? Has this government and the minister addressed the issues in a timely manner hundreds of these lives lost could have been saved. So the minister is saying something good coming out of their deaths. Then the Prime Minister hypocritically bemoaning their passing because he is refusing to use his ultimate authority to provide, to implement the important inquiry into the deaths of these patients. He has that important responsibility, and he is refusing to do so. And is it because you have uncontrolled diabetes, you must die, and something good will come out of it? And what he says of these patients' deaths, had this government and minister addressed the issues in a timely manner, hundreds of these lives lost could have been saved. It is an outright tragedy, which is ridiculous, inhumane, and insensitive words. He and his team have failed to perform their jobs effectively, competently, and with dangerous, misinformed, and unwarranted hubris. That's a dangerous attempt to gaslight the population. And I want to echo the leader of the opposition statements when she said that these doctors who come out on a daily basis and make these statements, they must be removed and replaced because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They are public servants and they must be accountable to the population. The population pays their salaries. And they can't come and be platitudinous to the political party and the government in power just because they sit with the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's team. They have to give objective information. They are professionals, and professionalism must be their watchword. And so therefore, we demand important information from them. They started with under-testing. And the under-testing and went along for a number of months, and they did it deliberately to present false information to the general electorate for election purposes in March to August 2020. The Ministry of Health and the government, they were unready to deal with the COVID pandemic in those months from March, and they failed to provide personal protective equipment, test kits, testing in hospitals, as promised by the minister. He failed to accept help from the private sector labs, saying that testing would have taken place in hospitals, which has never even started up to today. And now over 120,000 tests have been done at private labs, paid for by our citizens. Over 120 million citizens have paid from their pockets to pay for these testing. The Ministry of Health can be accused of dumping of citizens in rat-infested homes in the early days and unsanitary places for quarantine. And the Minister of Health was falsely claiming he has enough spaces and facilities for quarantine. Today, almost 8,000 COVID-19 positive patients are quarantined in their own homes, unfortunately infecting their loved ones, some of whom die subsequently. So when the country is asking, well, why are we having so many 100, 200 positive COVID patients, it is multiplying within their own homes. Then the minister claimed he has enough ICU beds, and he claimed that he can get 72 ventilators and ICU beds can become available. Today, the health teams are struggling to keep the patients alive in the total 24 ICU beds in Couva, Augustus, Long, and Arima hospitals. And look at the statistics in May, June, July. Imagine we have 24 ICU beds in a COVID pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, and for 1.4 million people. That's a shame. The minister should hang his head in shame. The refusal by the Ministry of Health to resolve the issue of 17 senior doctors' unhappiness, despair, and dissatisfaction with the Central Regional Health Authority Board and CEO Davlin Thomas. They deliberately frustrated these doctors. They gagged them. They gagged the doctors' complaints and they were thrown out of the Hoover Hospital at the end of April, removing 6 senior, very qualified and experienced intensivists, anesthetists, pulmonologists, nephrologists, replacing them with relatively junior, less experienced doctors to manage the ICU and the high dependency units. Is it surprising that we are having more deaths in May, June, and July, and a surge of deaths, when you have removed 6 of the best that you could have had, and you have another 11 gagged who cannot give any information and add to the management of these patients? The surge in deaths began in May, June, and continuing in July. So is there a direct correlation with the increased deaths and the pushing aside of the very valuable medical expertise of these 17 senior doctors at the end of April? They were removed in April. May, June, July has had a surge. Can Dr. Parasram and Dr. Trotman and Dr. Abdul and Dr. Hines give any information as to that? Why has that happened? The Minister of Health has failed to protect and preserve the health, safety, and lives of citizens due to his acute and often questionable mismanagement. The government, the Prime Minister, Minister Dayal Singh, who offered a plethora of advice and suggestions and recommendations from the opposition and from very learned citizens in the field of medicine, but they chose to blatantly, arrogantly, and dangerously ignore them. Government refusal to have the pandemic discussed 5 times in Parliament, raised as early as January 30th, 2020, 3 times in the upper house and twice in the Senate. There were repeated invitations from the opposition leader to formulate a bipartisan approach to battle the pandemic, deadly ravaging effects, and outright refusal by the Prime Minister of the opposition assistance and support. That tells you something. Here it is, the opposition leader pledging her support for the government and for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, but the Prime Minister bluntly refusing. Around the world this is happening. The opposition government have come together, but here in Trinidad, autocracy and dictatorship persists, which is in keeping with the Prime Minister's rule over a period of the last year and a half. The Ministry of Health failed to provide and employ adequate nursing personnel, as stated by the Nursing Association, and also they failed to bring on more experienced specialist consultants to manage the care of patients in the ICU and high dependency units. So when Minister Dayal Singh says that nothing more could have been done, these are things that he could have done and implemented, which he failed to do. And he wants to cast the blame on the people who are diabetic and say, well, it's good something come out of it because you're diabetic, because you're hypertensive, because you have asthma, because you have chronic obstructive disease, because you have cancer, because you have an autoimmune disease. These patients live a normal life, but if they have COVID, you're supposed to take care of them with the medication and the management to protect their lives and save their lives. And don't say because they have diabetes, they must die. The Ministry of Health failed to provide support, care, monitoring, and medical assistance. For at one time, there were 10,000 COVID-19 positive patients at home. Now there are about 7,000. Left by themselves, no pulse oximeters, no medical monitoring and advice, no oxygen concentrators, no medication, no efficient transport from home to hospital when patients became critical at home. All of that is happening and is still happening. There are about 7,000 citizens at home needing support and advice and medication, and they can't get it. The Ministry of Health fails to give anything to them. Patients were being placed in emergency tents at hospitals, sometimes for 7 days, awaiting COVID-19 test results, because you don't know whether they're positive or they're negative, so they can't move, but they're suffering. We know it's COVID positive, but we have to wait for the results. They don't even have a bed to lie on. Some of them did not have oxygen to be given to them before they were even considered to be transferred from there to a comprehensive medical care. Well, I just spoke about the vaccine failure. Well, the whole Trinidad and Tobago and the world knows about the Prime Minister's failure on the whole vaccine situation. When he says he does not beg, we're begging. And that, the whole of Trinidad and Tobago knows where we are now. Five areas from the lowest, 28 out of 33 with our vaccination program. If Trinidad and Tobago had received the vaccination at an earlier stage in a more rapid manner, we would not have these amount of patients dying as we're having them today. And what did you do about the 60-year-olds? We have close to about 200,000 above 60 years. Why did we not ensure that they received the vaccines very early? But here you brought them out on that to come out in the rain and have them huddled in hundreds to be told that you don't have enough vaccination for them. And then there was the Prime Minister inviting 50,000 citizens to go to Tobago, come on holiday in Tobago. I wonder what happened to his thinking then when he invited 50,000 people to come and mingle again. My friend, Prime Minister, what happened to you then? Why did you do that? This is what is causing the problem in Tobago at this time. And why are you refusing to set in motion a commission of inquiry into this COVID-19 pandemic management? And you're also refusing and fail to appoint an independent team for an inquiry into these deaths. You know why. I don't know, we don't know why you are not doing it. Because your government is accused of callous, naked incompetence, mismanagement, and failure, and that is being laid bare. But Prime Minister, one day it will be done, you know. This commission of inquiry will be done. Yeah. And the inquiry into these confidential debts will be done. I'm being advised, so whether you want to do it now or you don't want to do it, it will be done someday. I am being advised that many bereaved family members are contemplating initiating legal action against the state and its agents in the passing of their very dear loved ones. And under the Freedom of Information Act, they will be seeking full disclosure on their loved ones' management, care, and passing at the hospitals. My dear friend, Honorable Prime Minister, I have noticed that suddenly, for the past week, you have started running around saying, I am not a dictator. I'm not a dictator. Every other comment you make, you punctuate it with, I am not a dictator. As Shakespeare would say, Honorable Prime Minister, methinks you doth protest too much. Methinks you doth protest too much. Let me say this. Your blatant refusal to fire Minister Dayal Singh for his ongoing dangerous blundering and incompetence, and your ongoing refusal to accede to the wishes of a traumatized, battered population, to use your authority to commission that inquiry into these very tragic, preventable COVID-19 deaths. Is this proof of you being a dictator? Ask yourself, why are you not doing it? You're being accused of being a dictator, and these are the issues surrounding it. This inquiry must be done now, and now announce the inquiry now. And while I come to the end, I want to give some advice to my 4 medical colleagues who come on television every day, whom I had the privilege and pleasure of teaching 3 of them at various times. COVID-19 hospitalization in England surveillance system, have you heard about it? They collect data on patients with COVID-19 admitted to critical care. Have you heard about 108 English National Health Trust submitted data to this hospital surveillance system? 30-day mortality rates are circulated separately for high dependency units and ICU units by weeks of admission. This research findings assist and guide, 1, advances in clinical management. But I know that all 3 of you have not worked substantially long in hospitals. You went on from being an intern to a house officer, and you went in training in public health. But hospital experience need to be taken into consideration. Get some help, Dr. Trotman, get some support. My understanding is that you are in charge of all the admissions and management and transfer of these hundreds of patients on a daily basis. How can one person be managing that? And where is your research to help you in further clinical management? Reduction of strain on critical care services. Strain, what is the research being done in Trinidad? Evolving research findings have been central to informing and improving treatment. Evolving research findings, where is that being done in Trinidad and Tobago? Have been central to informing and improving treatment strategies. There is an undeniable association between critical care staffing, service strain, and patient mortality. There is an undeniable association between critical care staffing, service strain, and patient mortality. Is this happening in the ICUs and in the HDUs? Pharmaceutical treatment and management. My understanding is that a lot of the RHAs, all these providers of pharmaceuticals and equipment and other things needed for management, they are not paying them, so they're not providing it. And a lot of pharmaceuticals and reagents necessary for testing are not available in this COVID-19 pandemic time. So what do you expect? Don't you expect the patients to die? What about the D-dimer tests? Where are your vasopressors to keep the heart beating stronger when patients' hearts are failing as a result of it being in the intensive care unit? Where there is a significant impact of critical care organization when you do your research. And there are models of nursing care delivery. Have you looked at that? Have you implemented that? The improved survival of critical care COVID-19 patients is consistent with recent research. Where's your research? How many patients are dying? How many come out alive? Why do they die? There is significant research being done internationally on critically ill patients that help to guide clinicians' understanding of the evolving outcomes of patients in order to improve and undertake further targeted clinical management in ICUs and HDUs. But nothing is being done in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to repeat that. There is significant research being done internationally on critically ill patients that help to guide clinicians' understanding the evolving outcomes of patients in order to improve and undertake further targeted clinical management in ICUs and HDUs. Sadly, painfully, no analyses, doctors, no statistical data available, nothing, Honorable Minister of Health, Honorable Prime Minister, nothing. Where are we? Are we a Z-world, in a Z-world country? We have bright brains. We have some of the best doctors in the world here in Trinidad. Bring them together, ask them for some support. But you are an autocrat and you get up on television every Saturday and tell the country, well, X amount of vaccine coming and they don't come, and X and Y. And the doctor's telling you about this graph and that graph and this color graph and how many beds available and how many beds filled. We need important information. An analysis done worldwide on intensive care unit strains and mortality risks are among critically ill. Critical care survival rates in COVID patients important. Mortality in patients admitted to ICU. What factors are associated with increased mortality? ICU and ventilator mortality among critically ill patients, and studies linking hospital ICU capacity to COVID-19 mortality rates. There have been meta-analyses of data, doctors, on Medline, Embase, PubMed databases have published data on deaths in intensive care as a proportion of completed ICU admissions. Observational studies, including 43,000 patients, report from Middle East, South Asia, Australasia, National and Regional Registries Association, and associations of anesthetists. This was done in February 21. And they show that ICU deaths range from 10%, 1 in 10. In Victoria, Australia is 1 in 4, 25%. And in most countries, you have maximum of 3 out of 10 dying. What is ours in Trinidad and Tobago as deaths, as a proportion of completed ICU admissions? We have no information, none. Who from the medical team of advisors can provide this information? None has been doing it. Now, doctors, why? Is it incompetence? Is it unwillingness to have that information available? I have been advised that at least 8 out of 10 admissions in our ICU die and pass away, unfortunately. There has been devastating impact on the failed COVID response on the education of our children. And may I speak for a few minutes on this? Almost 2 years in our education system under this government, almost 70,000 students were left out of any education because of their inability, because of their poverty, because of the difficulties in financial capacity at home to have learning devices available. And the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, for almost 18 months only, they were begging corporate sponsors, corporate bodies, to help with these devices. How sad and unfortunate. For 6 years, from 2015 to 2021, P&M governments have failed the students of this country. They have wiped out 2 generations of students. Don't they have a heart to know that 70,000 students were not receiving education because of they had no online learning capacity? What did they do? This is a year and a half into this government, and still 40,000 students are without these IT devices, and the supporting platforms fail. When Mrs. Bissessa demitted office in 2015, well, everybody knows we gave out 95,000 laptops. Mrs. Prasad Bissessa had a vision. And if we had followed that 6 years later, we would have been 11 years from 2010 when we gave out the first laptops. And students would have been in university, and the important aspect of the IT work would be multiplying. But you stopped it, P&M stopped it, 2015. And Mrs. Prasad Bissessa, as Prime Minister, had pledged that his primary school students would have tablets as well. We had online technology already, and we had e-books designated to come in 2016. And we would have been amongst the top countries in the world moving ahead with IT. But today, 40,000 students are still not having IT devices, and now want to do a means test. The wealthy students would have bought their laptops and their IT devices. They would have gotten their education, but the poor students have not received their education. And what are they going to in this term coming up here? 2 years have almost passed. And still, a school reopening is contemplated for September. No support is still not provided to thousands more. And they continue to beg corporate citizens. And what about the mental health of our students? And they have been seriously impacted. Their behavioral, social, educational, and psychological development have been thwarted, yet no programs have been developed by the Ministry of Education to assist these students. This is poor governance. This is a failed government, creating and manufacturing a failed state. This is poor management by the Prime Minister and his team, whether it's health, education, whether it's finance, and my colleagues who have spoken before and will continue to speak. Very disturbing. Where are we going? In a bottomless pit. We're going as a Z-class country in the world now, one of the worst. So today, I gave you some ideas on where we are in terms of the governance and the management of this COVID-19 pandemic by this administration. They have failed, and continue to fail, and continue to endanger the loss of lives of our lovely citizens. It is shameful, disgraceful, unacceptable. Thank you very much.
Blessings to all. Welcome to Facts, Not Fiction. Join me, your host, Victor Roberts, this Thursday, the 29th, at 7:30 p.m. sharp. Yes, 7:30 p.m. sharp for another Facebook Live as we discuss why hasn't Keith Rowley instructed his appointed chairman of Petrotrin, his appointed board, to file an application to set aside the judgment of the arbitrators. Join me this Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Is it for a few dollars more? Iowa George, tune into this live. Very important. I'm out.